Hi, I'm Bob Zaremba. Welcome to our wildlife sanctuary here in Marietta, Georgia. It's been quite an adventure building and supporting this whole environment we've got going here. We've been here probably, like I said, 30 plus years. When I first got here, when we first moved into this house, it was your typical suburban yard. For the most part, mostly grass, continued, with just ornamental shrubs around, the buildings, etc. And it probably stayed that way for probably the first 10 years until I got tired of mowing grass and we became more active birding in the area. Once we started looking at birds and looking at what was around us, we started to change things a little bit. It started off pretty slow. We put in some trees and some shrubs that we thought, were good berry producing for birds that they'd like, such as the service berries in the back here and some of the other winter berries, etc. And it kind of took off from there. Over the past, I'd say 20 years, little by little, we've started reclaiming parts of the yard and putting in, some of the plants you see around here now. One of the reasons we bought this property back when we did was because of the lake, or the small pond, neighborhood pond back there, which we knew would be a great source of entertainment. I've got a number of bird baths up around the yard, kind of spread out, which kind of have a little bit of a draw. Matter of fact, there's one bird bath that we call the Wilson's bird bath because, let's see, probably now 15 years ago there was a Wilson's warbler that came in and took a bath in it. So from then on, it was always called the Wilson's bird bath. And behind me, we've got this little water feature which I put in probably about 18 months ago now, and it's just a recirculating stream. But it has been probably our favorite part of the yard, since I put it in. It attracts a lot of birds, and during migration, the warblers, the vireos, the tanagers, the grosbeaks, they'll all come down and bathe in the stream. And we've had kind of a fun competition with another birder in the Athens area, Richard Hall, who can get the most interesting bird or come up into their bird bath or their bird stream here. I think so far he's beaten me because he had a Connecticut warbler and I haven't had that yet. But we've had a number of ceruleans come in, which has been a really nice feature, a really nice addition to the pond. It really has attracted quite a few birds, and it's been probably the highlight of the yard, of the habitat here, because not only does it attract all the birds, we get to sit here and listen to a nice babbling brook while we're enjoying the solitude of the whole habitat here. So when we first started on this journey of trying to create a sanctuary for birds, I think we started out with some misconceptions about what was beneficial and what wasn't. This is our pollinator garden here, and we do get a lot of pollinators here. I mean, there's a lot of hummingbirds, there's a lot of bees and butterflies. But some of the advice we took early on, may not have been the best advice. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of non-native species in here, which although they're good pollinator sources, may not be the best pollinator sources. So, for example, we've got a lot of lantana, we've got a lot of the salvia, which worked out well for the birds, but of course, there might have been better choices to put in. It's so established now that, trying to, remove it and replace it would be a job. So there's other things in the yard we're going to work on first, but for the most part, we would have done it differently had we had a little bit more knowledge, a little more understanding of, what plants were beneficial and what plants were native versus ornamental. So we're working on it, and it's always a work in progress. We'll never be done trying to improve the habitat. We'll never be done, trying to provide sources for the birds and butterflies and bees, etc. So yeah, a couple of our favorite plants in the yard actually. This pokeweed growing behind me is fantastic because obviously the birds love the berries during the fall. It's a great source of nutrients for both thrushes, catbirds, you name it, vireos. We always see them feasting on these berries. So wherever we have pokeweed growing, we just let it grow up and try and maintain it that way. We also have right next to me some Joe Pye weed, which is a little past bloom now, but it gets covered with pollinators, this time of year. And it's a fantastic plant for bees and for other insects that love to, use the pollen, etc. Also, kind of growing in the middle of the pokeweed, you may be able to see some jewelweed. Jewelweed's another great plant that we have growing in the yard. It's just starting to come into bloom now. The hummingbirds love it. Interestingly enough, we found out actually a couple of years ago that the rose-breasted grosbeaks in the fall will actually come into the jewelweed and they'll devour the seed pods. They'll be in there, chomping down on the seeds, and it was something that we hadn't really understood or seen before. So I think we've had about 38 species of birds nesting in or around the yard. One of the coolest was a couple of years back when we had a nest of green herons on the lake here. It's unusual that we get to see green herons, first of all. They just haven't been around this area very much. So to have them nesting here was very, very cool. The biggest problem we've had is this invasive periwinkle and English ivy that probably every homeowner has been challenged trying to get under control. So we've been trying to reclaim, some of the yard that's been overgrown with that for probably the last 10 or 15 years. And try and knock that back, keep it knocked back, get it pulled out, and then kind of restore it to a little more natural state, which is a lot of work in itself. I don't use any insecticides or pesticides on the yard. That kind of defeats the purpose in my mind. We have very little grass growing, just a little couple of patches. It takes me like 10 minutes to mow, and that's just maintained naturally. And it's just there for aesthetics. So we have 5 cats. They're all indoor cats. Actually, Deb has been great at rescuing some stray cats that have had litters in the back. But it's always an ongoing battle, with neighborhood cats kind of roaming. People still let their cats out, which is unfortunate. And the feral cats are the ones that I really feel bad for because they've been dumped. So as far as providing seed or food for the birds, we pretty much are your normal seed providers here. We use sunflower, we use chips, etc. Most of which we try to get from birdwatcher supply or someplace like that. And then some suet, which we are providing for the woodpeckers, etc. The catbirds love the suet on these little snags here. These used to be a couple of pine trees that we had taken down that we left up so the woodpeckers and the nuthatches, etc. could kind of work on them and put together, and provide, a little bit of insect for them, etc. We have several hummingbird feeders up, especially this time of year. The hummingbirds are starting to come through now. By the end of the month, beginning of September, we'll probably have 30 or 40 hummingbirds, working the yard and doing their little hummingbird battles over the feeders. We really do have a lot of fun just sitting and watching the little bird stream here. We get, I've had 30 plus species of warblers come through the yard over the years. I think the yard list is around 172 birds that we've had, come through the yard, spend time in the yard. In the fall, when we have migrating warblers coming through, we try to provide some fruit and some sustenance for them. And we'll get up to 30 or 40 Tennessee warblers at any one time coming through the yard and sticking around. They'll spend 1, 2, 3 weeks here just because we're able to provide them some food and some shelter.